All of us would know in India that relatives can come in all kinds of shapes and sizes. Our society is based on the concept of large and extended families where each one of us has many relatives. The IBPS Reasoning Section 2 has some questions on relations. These questions are based on complex ways in which two people can be related or connected to each other. This is not a very common question type. However, it has been asked in the past, so you could expect about one or two questions on relatives to be asked in the reasoning section. This kind of a question tests your ability to think about how two things or two people can be connected to each other. If you look at the structure of the question, you will be provided with a very complex description of the relation between two people. You will have to simplify this complex relationship and then choose the correct answer from 5 multiple choices provided. Let's look at how to solve relatives questions in 3 simple steps. Step 1 is to break down the statement into smaller parts. As I mentioned, you will be provided with a very complex description of a relationship. You have to simplify it. For that, you have to look at this complex statement, break it into smaller parts so that it's easier to understand. Step 2 is to simplify the relationship. Once you've broken down the statement into smaller parts, you combine all of this to come up with a simple description of the relationship. And the third step is to choose the correct answer from the options provided. Let's look at how to solve it with the help of an example. The question reads, she said, her sister is the mother of my daughter's mother. How are they related? The 4 options provided are grandmother, aunt, mother, and sister-in-law. Step 1 is to break down the statement. She said, her sister is the mother of my daughter's mother. So if a woman is referring to someone as my daughter's mother, she is probably talking about herself. Therefore, my daughter's mother is the narrator. And the mother of my daughter's mother is in this particular sentence shall be the narrator's mother. Step 2 is to simplify the relationship. Now, the sister of the mother of my daughter's mother shall be the sister of the narrator's mother. Therefore, she shall be the narrator's aunt. Step 3 is to choose the correct answer. Hence, we mark B, aunt, as the right answer. These kinds of questions are fairly simple to solve. It just requires some amount of patience and some amount of practice to understand how to easily connect and how to easily reduce a complex description of a relation into something simple. If you see here in the example, a complex relationship description such as her sister is the mother of my daughter's mother has been reduced to mean something as simple as aunt. Most of the questions of this type that are asked in the IBPS exam shall be like this, and it requires clear thinking on your part in order to quickly solve and not make any mistakes. Still, let us look at some tips and shortcuts for tackling this kind of a question in a very quick manner. First, do not put a gender. Some names may be very confusing, like if you're given a name like Kiran, it might be a girl, it might be a boy. Some questions, like the example we just saw, would have a gender described outright because it had something like she said. Another question might have something like he said. In such a case, yes, you can assume a gender. But if a question is given where there is a name provided, do not put down a gender. Some names might be straightforward, like if you have a name like George or Rahul, you might know it's a boy, but still, do not assume a gender even if it is obvious by the name, because the IBPS is known to, do this kind of thing in order to confuse you. So always, if a name is provided, do not assume that a gender is associated with that name. Do not assume that that particular name is male or female. Solve it independently of the name. Just assume that the person is X. Go ahead and solve it without assuming if X is male or female. and arrive at that conclusion later on. The second tip is to look for pronouns. Like in the example question where there was a pronoun she, the question began with she said, so we knew that the person who's talking is female. Look out for pronouns like this that can help you determine the gender. Do not assume it on the basis of the name. So if the question has pronouns like he, she, his, or her, it can help you determine the gender. It can help you differentiate between a brother and a sister or a father and a mother. The third tip is to draw a diagram. Sometimes when there are multiple people involved in the relationship, you could get confused if calculating all of this mentally. The easy way to get around it is to draw a diagram that can help you avoid confusion and quickly find the interrelationship between two different people. For instance, if you have a grandfather, a father, an uncle, and me, this would be the diagram that would describe the relation that each one of us has with each other. So what you should do is, of all the people mentioned in the question, if you can quickly put down a diagram and quickly link them and explain to yourself how each person in the question is related to every other person, it will help you solve the question quickly without any mistakes. There are also some sample problems which you should solve in order to get sufficient practice, because these kinds of questions are fairly easy and can be solved quickly.